The Apex Survival update for Space Engineers 1 has been announced to be coming to the game in September. Alongside this announcement, we got this teaser here, and additionally, there's a lot more coming in this update that we need to discuss. So, without further ado, let's take a look. So, as you can imagine from the name Apex Survival, the update focuses on the survival mode of the game and enhancing its survival mechanics, with one of those main mechanics being an optional food and hunger system. I should quickly mention that all of these new survival mechanics will be optional, so you can turn any of them off if you don't want them. As you can see, we have 4 crops planted over here, which are mushrooms, vegetables, fruit and grain. And these 4 different crops are planted in a new block, which I believe to be called the farm plot. I actually came to this realization whilst preparing this video, as I reread some of the old teasers, and in the original teaser for this update, that came out when the fieldwork update, the last update for the game, was released, it says here, environmental hazards will affect how you explore and build, while managing food supplies and maintaining farm plots will become key to staying alive in the frontier of space. Farm plots is a very specific wording. If I was referring to maintaining crops and stuff, I don't think I would use specifically the term farm plots, so I've started to wonder if this is the name of the block here these crops are planted in. I'm not 100% convinced of that, but it does sound like a better name than planter and hydroponic block, or at least a less confusing name for a new player. Keeping in the vein of blocks we already know about, this block over here is the food processor, which is a block that creates rations from the various food items, and not just the 4 we have here. The only ration that we know the name of is a ration called seared sabroid, which is presumably made from sabroid meat, which is presumably obtained by killing sabroids. So that means there is at least 1 extra food item, being meat from sabroids, and I'm going to assume that there's meat from sabroids, there's also going to be meat from wolves as well. So that adds up to a total of 6 base food items, plus whatever rations the food processor crafts as well. I actually think we can see 2 of the ration packs over here on the desk next to the farm plots. You can see these 2 packets over here, one with a yellow sticker and one with a red sticker, and if anything was a ration pack, I would definitely suggest it's these. Other than the colour of the stickers, we can't really infer much from them, but in a previous teaser we got to see 2 ration packs on the hotbar, and these definitely appear to be very similar. The left ration pack has a leaf or a grain icon on it, and the right ration pack is either some sort of seaweed or fire icon. I'm not really sure what these 2 icons represent, but if it's a grain or a leaf icon, potentially it's the ingredients of it. We just need to work out what this ingredient actually is, which we'll come back to in a second. Next to these 2 meal packs, we can see a couple of other items. This one here is a medkit. We already have this in the game. There's no reason really to dwell on this, except for the fact that medkits aren't craftable in Space Engineers 1, so maybe this is some sort of hint that they'll be craftable in this new update. Over here we have 2 packets, and they're significantly smaller than the meal packs, but it's not really clear what they are. This one has a yellow sticker on it, and this one I don't think we can see the sticker because of the angle it's at, but I don't really think that helps us. If I had to suggest something, and this might be a reach, but I really don't know what else they could be, potentially these are seed packets? Do you vacuum seal seeds in space like you do with food? It seems like you would, right? I don't really know what else these would be otherwise. Over here, there appears to be some sort of syringe, and if I had to put money on it, I would suggest this is some sort of Radaway or rad resistance injection, and you take this, and it either removes the radiation that you have, or it stops it from going up. I should mention that it's confirmed that radiation is coming to Space Engineers in this next update. This isn't just conjecture, we know that's happening, and I'll talk more about that later, but it makes sense to mention it now as we're looking at the screenshot. It's right next to the medkit. We know that we're getting radiation in this update. I would suggest there's a very high chance of this being some sort of radiation adjacent product. Right next to our medkit and Radaway, we have this crate here. Now these crates have this green symbol over here, which appears to be identical to our leaf/grain symbol that we saw earlier on the ration pack. So potentially that's related in some way. I would suggest that these are some sort of cosmetic freight or cargo container block, and you can place them around your base and store stuff in them. But maybe they're potentially directly related to the food products, and you can only store food items in them. Having an item that only stores 1 product isn't really how Space Engineers works, but food is kind of different than everything else in Space Engineers, being a lot more fragile, so maybe they want to have it stored in specialized containers to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. But if I'm honest, I think it's my first idea, and it's some sort of cosmetic crate block. If we slide to the left, there is this block here, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not even going to begin to guess what this block is. The only hint that we have is that there is this danger icon over here, which seems to indicate some sort of explosion, but I wouldn't suggest this block is to do with explosions. The fact that this teaser is showing us farm plots, ration packs, the food processor, and there appears to be another block over here that we'll mention in a minute, I would suggest that this block is in some way connected to the food system. But what it is, I have no idea. This over here appears to be some sort of tank, I guess, but I don't know what this window here would be. Maybe it's some sort of mixer for food? Don't know why there would be an explosion symbol for a mixer. It appears that you can see something inside, or maybe that's just the reflection on the glass. Maybe this is the slop maker machine. The food processor creates ration packs, and this thing just creates slop. What's it called in RimWorld? Nutrient paste dispenser. Maybe that's what it is. I don't think it is. I have no idea what it is. But I think that's a funny idea, so I'm sticking with that. If we come back outside, we have this block I mentioned a second ago, which is really odd. When I first saw it, I was pretty convinced that this was some sort of oxygen farm retexture. The oxygen farm being a block that you place in the sunlight, and it generates oxygen passively with the plants inside of it. And I was pretty set for it to be that. But 2 people in my Discord, you can see their comments on screen now, suggested that this could be some kind of kelp or seaweed farm. Now I thought, kelp, really? You guys have been playing way too much Minecraft. They're not going to add kelp to Space Engineers. And then I remembered this ration pack here with the seaweed sort of symbol on it. And I was like, wait a second. Then I remembered that the real life way that they counter radiation is with iodine pills. And what is high in iodine? Kelp is, of course. Radiation being added in this update, new weird seaweed block, seaweed food item, seaweed being a thing that negates radiation. Too many things are lining up. This has to mean something, right? This is some sort of seaweed or kelp farm like these 2 guys suggested. And then we could use this kelp to make food items, and we can also use it to make anti-radiation injections in order to negate the effects of radiation that's also being added in this update. Or alternatively, this could just be an oxygen farm, and as I blame someone else for saying it's a kelp farm, if I'm wrong, that means they're wrong, and I was always right. But if it is a kelp farm, just know that I will definitely be taking credit for that. But regardless if this is an oxygen farm or a kelp farm or whatever, there is one important thing to note about it. And that is quite simply, there is water inside it, which means, once again, our prayers have been answered and water has been added to Space Engineers. Right, I won't spend too much time on these things as we've already covered them in previous videos, but I figured I might as well mention everything that we know is coming in this update. So let's begin with something I mentioned earlier, which is environmental hazards. So far, we only know about weather-based environmental hazards and radiation, and there's potential that there's more, but we haven't heard about any others at this time. According to a previous teaser, all of the weather effects have been improved both visually and also mechanically. For example, this is what fog looks like in current Space Engineers, and this is what it will look like in the Apex Survival update. This here is what rain looks like, and this is what it will look like in the new update. And here is a sandstorm, and it doesn't actually look that bad. And then here's what it looks like in the new update. And most importantly, as you can see at the bottom, the engineer is damaged as he's hit by debris. And this is one of the things that takes these from weather events to weather hazards. So sandstorms now damage the players standing inside of them. There is a new caustic rain, which apparently spawns on the alien planet, which slowly damages over time. And there is also this radiation storm, which also appears to spawn on the alien planet, which slowly irradiates you over time, as indicated by this radiation counter on the left. We can presume that there are more weather-based hazards than this, but these are the only ones we've seen so far, and they definitely look much better visually, and it'll be interesting actually having to play around these weather hazards, rather than just getting confused why it's suddenly slightly darker during the day. We've currently only seen radiation in this radiation storm, but there is potential for it to spawn in other places. I know a lot of you guys really want radiation to leak out of damaged reactors. As you know, that just makes sense and it would make reactors a little bit less overpowered. But we've currently seen no evidence of that, but we also hadn't seen half the blocks that were shown in this first teaser before. So it's still possible. And another potential feature of radiation that some of you guys suggested is that it slowly builds up while you're in space as you're exposed to the full unfiltered radiation of the sun. Obviously making space almost inhospitable would be a massive difficulty increase, but as we've been told many times before, all of these new survival options are optional, so maybe there could be an option for radiation to happen while you're in space, and maybe there could be an option to toggle it off for reactors as well. After months of getting up every day and praying to the monolith, praying to the cable, praying to anyone but Clang because he's a false prophet, they finally added what I've been wanting to Space Engineers for so long: overhauled random encounters. Yes! We covered these in depth in my last video, which apparently a lot of people didn't get to see. YouTube algorithm, my beloved. But the main takeaway of that video is that about half these encounters appear to be remakes of ones that are currently in Space Engineers, and the other half appear to be new ones. But all of these take advantage of the new blocks and features that have been added over the last few years. Stuff like the new weapons, the new AI blocks, and even new features that are coming in the Apex Survival update. And the other big takeaway of the overhauled random encounters teaser is that there's a new skybox. The skybox that's currently in Space Engineers is green and very bright, whereas this new skybox is darker and a more bluer shade. It also appears changed in a couple of other teasers we've had recently, so I guess they've just decided it's time to replace it. I definitely like how this new one looks. It's like a mix of current Space Engineers and the Space Engineers 2 one, which is very appealing because I really like the Space Engineers 2 one. I'd prefer if maybe it's a little bit brighter, but hey, at least it's not green anymore. Anyway, there's one more important detail about the Apex Survival update that we need to discuss. We know that the Apex Survival update is coming in September, and the question is when. And I recorded this really long section explaining when I thought it was, using maths and averages and all kinds of cool stuff. But, well...
Oh, what's this over here? I see like a radioactive sign. The radioactive
preparation maybe for next week.
The radioactive
preparation maybe for next week.
Ooh.
So this is obviously from the community managers for Space Engineers. So does this mean that the update will come out next week, as they say? I don't know, but a lot of people did message me this clip, so why don't you guys let me know what you think? And don't worry, whenever this update releases, be it next week or whenever, I will definitely be covering it on this channel. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel to keep up to date with everything Space Engineers.
Aaron, okay.
No, did it? You know what though? Maybe that was a bit naughty for me to tease like that.
Aaron misspoke, guys.
I'm gonna say that I misspoke, but that's not actually gonna happen. So I don't want to.
Yeah, no.
I don't want like.
I don't want to say anything, but he's not actually right.
I teased with too much of a serious face. So
I know, and I was hoping it would blow over, but a few people picked up on it, so I was like, gotta quickly shut it down, before.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. That was an over tease. That.
Yeah.